Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking the Full Potential of Edge to Cloud with a New Linux Approach. Today's webinar is sponsored by Wind River and produced by Actual Tech Media. I'm Keith Ward with Actual Tech Media, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this special event today. But before we go there and get to the great content that we have got prepared for you, there are a few housekeeping items I need to let you know about to help you get the most out of this session. And that's really what you want, right? First of all, we want your questions. Just put them in the questions box in your webinar control panel. Now, at the end of the presentation, we're going to dive into your questions, so keep them coming throughout. Now, that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. A browser refresh is the first thing you want to do to fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues. Sometimes it takes a couple of refreshes, so do that first. If that still doesn't work, well, let us know in the Q&A. We'll jump on and try to help you out. Second, we have got some great handouts for you today. You can find that handout section, in fact, right next to the questions tab that we were just taking a look at. One thing worth a close look right now over there in the handouts is the link to more information about Elixir Pro, an amazing product which you will be hearing a lot about today. So go over there and check that out now. In the handout section, you'll also find a link to the Actual Tech Media Events Center, which has our calendar of more upcoming events like this one. Check those events out, see which ones you like, and sign up today. Would love to see you in some more events in the future. Okay, next, at the end of this event, we're going to be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you listening to my voice right now. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of that prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll see the link with all the details there. Now, I mentioned before that we encourage your questions. We not only encourage them, we're going to reward you for them in the form of the chance to win another Amazon gift card. That is right. We have another $50 card for the best question that we get during this event. Now, what's going to happen is when it's all said and done, we're going to look at all the questions that came in. We're going to pick out the very best one, and we are going to contact that prize winner so they can get a $50 card. So, sound good, huh? Keep those questions coming, as I mentioned, and that could be you several chances to win today. And with that, folks, let's get to the main event. What say? We have got with us two fantastic presenters, and they are Lexi Schroeder, Product Line Manager for Enterprise Linux at Wind River, and Derek Straka, Senior Director of Product Manager for Linux Portfolio at Wind River. Those are some impressive titles, aren't they? I cannot wait to hear what Lexi and Derek are going to present, so I'm going to hand the floor right over to them now. Derek, I'm going to give you the virtual mic, sir. Take it away.
Thanks a lot, Keith. I'll kick us off and take us away on the discussion on bridging the gap from cloud to edge. So I wanted to start with a quick viewpoint on Wind River. We've got a US-based operation that provides a comprehensive suite of solutions with over 40 years of industry experience. We've got a rich history supplying mission-critical support to systems that matter. So those systems that can't fail in the most demanding workloads. So whether that be resource-constrained environments, places where performance is critical, it could be harsh environments where devices are ultimately unmonitored, and it may be very expensive to roll the truck. Or there may be other system constraints. And overall, Wind River's got about 1,700 customers across a variety of industries, from aerospace and defense to industrial, to automotive, to healthcare. And we've got an expansive presence across the globe where we offer 24/7 support to our customers. And that's a little bit about Wind River and who we are and what our DNA is. So on this page, I'd love to cover a little bit about Wind River's rich history and contribution to open source that really moves from the cloud all the way to the edge in a variety of capacities. If we start thinking about how Wind Rivers contribute to open source in the more enterprise or cloud space, we have our Starling X open source project, which is a container infrastructure for telecommunications applications, and also bridging outside of telecom. We also, closer to the edge, have a couple of projects that we've been co-founders and co-sponsors of. The first is the Yocto project, which is an embedded Linux source distribution builder, which enables folks to be able to compile, build, and deploy embedded Linux on a variety of hardware platforms, applications, as well as industries there. And thirdly, we've got our Zephyr project, which is an open source small RTOS for very constrained environments and embedded devices. So think things like your microcontrollers, microprocessors, or anywhere where you need that real-time nature. And overall, Wind River has been contributing to open source for the past 15 to 20 years, and we have a rich history being an upstream first kind of company. So I'd love to talk a little bit about what it means to be cloud to edge and provide a flexible infrastructure. So what we have here is a six-tier architecture diagram that runs from very small intelligent sensors. So think things like smaller microcontrollers. It could be things that are maybe a thermostat, runs Linux, but in a more resource-constrained environment, all the way to your regional data center or even your public cloud applications here, where you may be running a big iron type of Xeon processor. And one of the things to note is as you move from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, you really do increase in terms of the heterogeneity of your processor environments. So on the edge, you may see things like RISC-V, a variety of ARM processors. As you get into a bit more capable systems, you'll see things like your x86 processors that are typically going to be more power sensitive or resource constrained. So these might be your Atom processors or your core processors. And as we move closer towards the data center, you'll see things like your ARM system ready, 64-bit ARM processors that are going to be in servers, as well as your more big iron type of Xeon processors. And what we want to illustrate here is that there's a huge variety of application workloads that are going to require portability, compatibility across these particular environments. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how we're bridging the gap in the open source community with a new open source project that we've recently launched called Elixir. And what you'll notice here is that the original three contributions and projects that Wind River was involved with, you'll see on the left-hand side that the Zephyr project and Yocto project were really focused more on edge systems, whether it was intelligent sensors, gateways, or moving into the intelligent edge, whereas Starling X was more focused on cloud and enterprise applications. And what you'll see with the Elixir project is that it really bridges that gap and runs all the way from intelligent sensors all the way back to the data center and public cloud. And the Elixir is based on upstream Debian and is a Debian derivative, which is consists of Debian compatibility. It's an upstream first development methodology, which means that when changes come in to Elixir, the open source project, we work heavily within the Debian community and within the broader open source community to get those patches moved upstream. And why we do that is one, to reduce the amount of maintenance and technical debt moving forward, and two, to make sure that the broader community gets access to those changes. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the key attributes associated with the Elixir distribution and open source project, and those are one, low footprint. So, what we mean by that is the installation and the initial footprint of your operating system is meant to be very small. That doesn't mean that you don't have the richness of the Debian ecosystem, though. And that's one of the great features about Elixir is that you're able to tap into the 120,000 packages that exist in the upstream community, pull those down, install them, and use them in your application. But it also means that the base installations don't have a bunch of extra packages, features, functionalities that you might not use. And the benefits of that are twofold. The first is really if we think about from an OpEx perspective, it means that you don't have to do as much patching because the software that's on there is only the software packages that you're using and not a bunch of other items that you may not be using but may have vulnerabilities. So it allows you to focus your vulnerability management on a much smaller core. It also reduces your security attack surface. Another advantage of it is more from a capital expenditure, CapEx perspective, in that a smaller footprint means you can get higher density in terms of applications running on there, and gives you the opportunity to execute a larger variety of workloads on the same pieces of hardware. The second real attribute is around performance optimization. So Elixir is going to be providing a set of optimizations that are going to allow you to execute your workloads in one, a more deterministic fashion, and two, a performance optimized fashion where you can get every ounce out of your particular hardware set. The third item is around the real-time kernel, being able to have an RT kernel that's going to allow folks to have a more deterministic experience if their particular workload demands it. And the fourth attribute is around security hardened. And not only does that mean the smaller footprint and smaller attack surface, it also means that there are going to be core security features that are going to be enabled as part of the Elixir project. And it may be things like security configurations for things like CIS benchmark, STIGs if you're in the aerospace environment, but really those configurations are meant to be applied by default so that folks who install the operating system get the benefit of those security features and functionalities. And the second real security item is going to be around the full support of Secure Boot, as well as being able to have the attestation chain to be able to go from hardware root of trust all the way up through bootloader to kernel modules to application user space and have that be trusted on a variety of hardware platforms, whether that be an ARM64, whether that be an x86 processor. Gives people the opportunity to have a much easier experience applying best practice security configurations, enabling them to have a more secure application development and just a more secure device in general. Now, Lexi would love to understand and show people a little bit, how does this fit into the Wind River portfolio strategy?
Absolutely. So, as Derek had mentioned, our strategy has always been upstream first development, but our new Elixir Pro commercial offering also fits the continuum of offerings that we have from VxWorks, which happens to be the industry's most widely deployed real-time operating system, our existing Linux offering of Wind River Linux, a commercial embedded Linux operating system that does contribute back to the Yocto project. Additionally, we have our Helix virtualization platform, a safety certifiable multi-OS hypervisor that supports mixed levels of criticality. And then lastly, our Wind River Cloud platform, which really truly showcases that integrated cloud platform unifying infrastructure, orchestration, and analytics capabilities. Elixir Pro has two flavors, if you will. Elixir Edge for the embedded space, but based off of Debian versus Yocto, and then Elixir Server Pro, which again is a Debian derivative, but more focused towards the enterprise. I will get to some of the value propositions of Elixir Pro a little bit later in our session, but first really would love, Derek, for you to kind of explain some of the challenges and why we invited to be a founding member of the Elixir project for the industries.
Yeah. So if I think about the world of disruptions that are happening across the cloud to edge continuum, if I look at cloud, there's a large amount of scalability that are offered for the various cloud platforms. There's a bunch of challenges though around compute power, bandwidth demands, data security, and compliance. And what we're seeing on the edge is some of those same challenges are resonating just on a different scale. So, for example, you'll see things like performance and resource limitations in the cloud. There's going to be importance of latency and processing. There's a lot of challenges around data privacy, data utilization, encrypting data, being able to pull that data from the edge to the cloud. And we're seeing a variety of disruptions in the space, but we're also seeing a lot of similarities in the problems and challenges. And if I think about development and how the lines are starting to blur more and more, traditionally embedded developers were creating something that was purpose built. But if I think now about some of the embedded processors, for example, the Raspberry Pi, what that's done is it's really democratize the development of embedded, if you will, in that folks who were traditionally cloud developers, maybe they were developing in containers or they're using higher level languages like Python, they're able to rapidly deploy and develop applications and get those deployed on very small footprint hardware that would typically be what most would consider embedded. On the flip side, we were seeing traditional embedded developers moving into the cloud space where they're developing applications in a run one or in a develop once, deploy many type of application where I want to be able to deploy that same particular workload on the edge in a private cloud or maybe even in the public cloud. And what's that causing is a bunch of disruption in one, how I develop software, two, the tools and technologies I use to develop that software, and three, how I think about long-term development and lifecycle management of those particular platforms. And if I think about the why now, and why would I want to add another operating system to the environment and to the open source community in general. What we're seeing is there's a lot of supplier disruption underway, whether it was some of the challenges associated with the deprecation of the CentOS project, which left a large number of folks evaluating some of their supplier constraints associated with Linux, whether it was other people who are changing the interpretation and how friendly they are with open source and downstream developers, whether it's vendors who may not have the large footprint or support footprint. I think there's a lot of challenges associated with current suppliers of Linux, and people are looking for an alternative. They're looking for folks who are going to be true to the upstream first development methodologies. They're looking for folks who are familiar with being able to provide a global support footprint. They're wanting to have a single operating system vendor that's going to be able to support them from edge to cloud and back again from a single vendor and be able to provide a wide variety of services and support, whether it's being able to look at performance critical workloads, whether it's being able to have and offer a a a platform that's designed for mission critical applications and provides that level of stability that's out there. And what we wanted to do with the Elixir project is kind of find the solution to bridge the gap between embedded and traditional enterprise solutions. And again, what we found is that embedded is starting to look much more like enterprise in ways that are really transforming the needs of the software developer and the needs of the market in general. And folks have been looking for a fit for purpose, open source, upstream first operating system that really bridges that gap and enables developers to be productive on day one and allow for folks to develop their mission critical application workloads to be able to enable AI, ML, AI orchestration, data analytics, provide security, and prevent cyber attacks, to be able to ensure business continuity, but also maintain application compatibility and portability. A large number of our customers have been wanting a solution where they can use the same tool chains, the same developer tools, whether they're deploying on a small embedded ARM processor or RISC-V processor that may be much more resource constrained, or whether they're deploying on a server. They want to be able to use the same tools, the same technical stacks, the things that they're most familiar with, but they're also wanting the ability to get the commercial support, to have someone to call when there's challenges, whether it's in production or whether it's during the development lifecycle. And that's why we feel that there's an important opportunity to be able to offer a fit for purpose operating system. And I want to talk to you here a little bit about some of the target applications that we see for Elixir. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Elixir Edge use cases, which look and feel more like the traditional embedded applications, whether they're going to be an intelligent monitor, a GPS handset, whether it's going to be a vehicle gateway or perhaps a patient data gateway. And as we move further towards the right, that's where we start seeing the opportunity for Elixir server use cases. So these could be things maybe at the intelligent edge or factory, where we're getting where we're getting all of the OT data, we're doing some data processing, and we're able to determine things like predictive maintenance, optimization of factory processes. Or as we move further towards the network far edge, into the data center, we might be processing things like fleet management in the automotive space, or looking at RAN solutions in more of the telco space. And finally, we see a great opportunity for Elixir Server in the public cloud for applications like VDIs, telematics services, or even just running more business critical traditional IT applications. So Lexi would love if you can explain a little bit more about how Elixir Pro helps safeguard enterprises who are leveraging Linux today.
For me, it's really about the software is freely available and open source. So we're building off of the value of being right-sized, reliable, robust, real-time, and resilient, but then layering on some of the award-winning commercial support that Wind River offers today. With more than 2 decades of Linux experience and more than 40 years of experience with mission-critical applications, we provide that enhanced and assurance against emerging threats, for example, providing security certifications like FIPS 140-3, and then also allowing when situations go wrong, that long-term support to pull systems back up as quickly as possible. Offering from enterprise long-term support from a 9 to 5 perspective all the way to 24/7 support for some of those more mission critical and priority need applications. And as I start to think about the Elixir Pro offering, again, allowing for performance optimized for the latest hardware accelerators, 10 years of CVE support and maintenance, security updates and for supported packages, we really do offer that support for that software, but then augment that with some of our professional services, such as migrating from your existing OS, allowing for some optimization and customization within the kernel, and then again, customer training both on-site and off-site to really become a trusted partner to the various industries that we serve. As mentioned, the Elixir project will always be, will be developing and contributing to the project to help enable the software. Back in July, it was announced at DebConf with really focusing on Debian packages, getting the kernels up to date, and thinking of setting up that open source foundation infrastructure. The next release will actually be coming October 4th to help sort of enable some of those cloud native applications, such as optimized container execution, container-based images, allowing for virtualization support on KVM, and then also from a pro perspective, doing some of that security certification kickoff and starting a STIG. Those are sort of the Elixir Pro capabilities that should you need, please reach out to Wind River using the QR code below to help with that long-term support services and security that you may need as an enterprise solution. But with that, Derek, I will hand it back to you to kind of lead us and then maybe get to some questions and answers from our audience.
Yeah, I think the last point here is really, hey, join the Elixir project, be part of our community. Would love folks to join. We're super excited at DebConf to announce the community with a variety of sponsors and supporters that you see here on the logo page. We'd be super excited and welcome your contributions, whether it's patching packages, whether it's creating bug reports, whether it's helping us improve the community at large. Would be super excited to have you join. If you want to learn more about the Elixir project and the Elixir community, please feel free to use the QR code that you see there. And again, what we want to do with Elixir is build upon the solid foundation of Debian and give users that upstream first methodology architected for a low footprint that's optimized and providing a smooth real-time kernel for deterministic workloads and applications, and offering an alternative that reduces your security attack surface. So again, if you're interested in learning more about the Elixir community, feel free to leverage the QR code that you see there. Okay, now it looks like we've got a lot of questions coming in. I'll hand it back to you, Keith, for the Q&A section.
And thank you so much, Derek. Man, that was a great presentation of what Wind River and Elixir Pro can do. And now, as you mentioned, we are going to do some fun Q&A. And for that, I am going to bring Lexi on. It looks like Derek is unable to join us right now, but that's okay because we have Lexi on, and I'm really looking forward to that. Lexi, you're here to talk about Elixir, Lexi. So I don't know why I think a lot of similarity in those names. So Lexi with Elixir. All right. So enough of my nonsense. Let's go over some questions. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. So first question that I'm seeing coming in for today is, what's the learning curve like for installing and using Elixir Pro?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So it should be fairly simple for anyone. Given it's an open source project, it's actually, you can go to elixir.org today using the QR code that Derek was presenting, download the ISO, try it out, and then troubleshoot with any documentation that's all freely available as part of the open source project. So in terms of the learning curve, I think it's pretty low, especially if you've used Debian or Linux before.
Right, right, and that's really good to hear because life is complicated enough as an IT person, you know. So that is really good to hear. All right, Sandeep wants to know, ask this: does Elixir Pro Commercial Enterprise Linux, I guess that's the full name, support some acronyms here: SRIOV and DPDK capability in the enterprise edge?
Yeah, actually, we just had our second release. Our first GA release launch was in June. Our second now in September. We do now fully support both DPDK and SRIOV.
All right. You did those acronyms a lot better than I could. Okay, Ev wants to know and asks, you speak a fair amount about security and mentioned STIGs, STIGs. Do you envision that Elixir is a suitable offering for use in DoD, in other words, Department of Defense, secure level projects?
Absolutely, yes. So we actually have recently kicked off the process of gaining a STIG for Elixir Pro, which will be part of our Elixir Pro commercial offering. We have also been talking with A&D customers to determine how best to deploy Elixir for those DoD secure projects. I'll say the genesis of Elixir and given Wind River's rich history with aerospace and defense, we sort of have been working very closely to make sure that the operating system is well suited for low bandwidth and even allowing for a minimal attack surface with the low security footprint. So yes, absolutely, I would say that it's a good approach for DoD secure projects.
That is fantastic. Not only the flexibility in being able to use it in situations where you may not have a great signal strength, great connectivity, but the fact that it's certified for use in DoD tells you something about the reliability and how the product is built too. It's something, in other words, that you can have a lot of confidence and trust in. So that is great to hear.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I just to double click on the
Sure.
security certifications that we're also again thinking about some of the compliance needs in mind. FIPS 140-2 and FIPS 140-3 are also security certifications we will be offering as part of our Elixir Pro offering.
Oh, outstanding. Great to hear. Okay, we have another excellent question from Sandeep. What is your interoperable orchestration platform to manage workloads, i.e. deployment, upgrades, rollbacks, and complex Helm charts, etc.?
Yeah, so we're actually looking to build out an ecosystem of partnerships with some of the tools today, such as Avasa and Zadata. We also do support other open source solutions that work with Debian, and really want to work with and we'll continue to pitch the community, add requests, add asks in order to bring your own solutions, if you will, and make sure that we get those into the project. Again, we want to really embrace and build a strong community as part of the Elixir open source project.
Gotcha. Great. Okay. Boy, so many great questions coming in. Lexi, it is clear that your presentation has really struck a nerve today. So let's keep going on some of these questions. Jeffrey wants to know, how well does Elixir Edge integrate with different cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, etc., in multi-cloud architectures, and what challenges arise in consistent policy enforcement and data management across providers? Love this question.
Yeah, absolutely. So Elixir does, for the server side, currently have an AWS AMI freely available on AWS Marketplace. So again, can go and I would say download it and try it out. For the Edge offering, we are looking to increase and add additional AMIs with AWS. The challenges around consistent data across platforms, I will say, is definitely a need in the market. What we've been doing with, again, with our partnerships is being able to work with their engineers to think through how to sort of standardize and or figure out how to make sure that Elixir works out of the box with those platforms.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Jeffrey has another question, and this is one that I'm sure a lot of the attendees out there are wondering right now. So this is a good one. What unique security mechanisms are in place within Elixir Edge to protect devices and data in environments with limited physical security or higher risk of cyber attacks?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I'll say is a piece within Elixir is around the minimal footprint. So we're really trying to develop as small a footprint as possible to decrease the attack surface and allow for, I'll say, increased maintainability as well. We also are implementing security features such as secure boot and in our 24.12 release, which will again enhance some of those security aspects. The other thing is Debian is already fairly secure. What works with Debian will work with Elixir, being a derivative. So we definitely try to maintain as close as possible to Debian's security while also adding a few of those other key features to the Elixir offering.
That's a really good point. Not only is Debian secure, but Linux, by its very nature, is very secure too. So that'll put a lot of minds at ease. Okay, here's an interesting question for people who say want to implement Elixir Pro, the various versions. How do they get to speed to market as quickly as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of comes up quite a bit with our customers and wanting to keep their Linux up to date, especially as hardware differentiation, speed at which technology is advancing, and even knowing which Linux they want to use, such as Yocto being more roll your own and more customizable versus Debian, which can be more out of the box and deployable. We envision Elixir as that sort of flexible solution to provide a binary distribution. Again, it's not as customizable as some of the other Linux offerings, but it gets you to market quicker. Adapt with hardware compatibility across ARM, Intel, and others, such as RISC-V in future releases. And then also being able to easy deploy with tools such as our distro to order tool that help, especially on the edge, that helps you find the packages you need and be able to boot as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. Outstanding. Okay, we're seeing a number of questions that I will kind of summarize here and fold them into one generalized question. How do you handle the question of resources for Linux?
Yes, resources for Linux. So what we've kind of heard as a challenge with our customers today is Linux tends to be, especially in organizations, more of that unique skill set in an organization, if you will, tend to be limited and even sometimes expensive for organizations to maintain on their own, as it does take a lot of effort to patch, maintain, update the base operating system, and usually isn't necessarily the core competency of the business application developers. What we've seen over time is that customers are sort of looking for that maintainability. And then in some cases for products in production, long-term support for up to 10 years and even beyond to remain compliant, ensure that the technology will work, even as some of the community offerings continue to move forward and only offer for instance, only up to 5 years. So definitely what we're looking for with Elixir is to offer that ability to get the hardware you need, get the solution you need from the community. But when you do have those long-term support needs, Wind River would be there with our Elixir Pro offering.
That is going to be music to the attendees' ears, I think, Lexi. Up to 10 years of support for the product. That tells you a lot about the confidence that you have in your solution as well. There's no doubt about it. Okay, let's see. You know what? We are ripping through the questions, and I have one final one here for you today that I want to ask you. Given the response we've gotten to the great presentation that you and Derek had, if someone wants to get started with Wind River right after this event, what would you recommend is the very next step that they take?
Absolutely. So I would say there's two main steps. One is Wind River, and one is, I'll say, our community project. The first is please go to elixir.org. Check out the community, check out the ISOs available today, documentation, and please go to our GitLab. Log issues that you're seeing, reach out if you want to become part of the Elixir community. We're really trying to make that as open source as possible. Wind River is a contributor and a founding member, but we also have supporters from AWS, from Intel, Capgemini, Supermicro, all who are committed to making this ecosystem as effective as possible, and more joining every day. So I will ask all of you to try it out, and if interested, join the crew, if you will. And then lastly, for those who may require those long-term support services or even training in Linux, one of the offerings from Wind River is become that trusted partner to ensure that the operating systems that you have today are secure, supported, and maintained for the long term. So yeah, those are sort of the two actions I would say, Keith, and hope that helps answer.
Oh, I love that. So if there's one thing I would say that defines the entire Linux universe more than anything else, it's that community. You know, that you said, that is one of the top benefits of being involved in the Linux world. The community is so supportive, and it's great to see how much Wind River is supporting Linux and their customers too. So you're just part of right in the middle of that community, and that is just great to hear. Well, Lexi, this has been a real pleasure for me to have you on today. I love the presentation that you and Derek gave. So much great information. I love what I learned about Wind River today, which was a whole lot. And based on the feedback I'm seeing, the attendees had the same reaction. Just outstanding stuff today. So thank you again for your time, for your insights in the Q&A, and for educating us on what Wind River is all about. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Keith, and thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you very much. You heard the lady. Don't hesitate to reach out to Wind River. This has just been an awesome time today, folks. And with that, I'm going to end it in the best way possible by making one of you a little bit richer. I've got to give away a $250 Amazon gift card. Now, as I mentioned at the top, you do have to be present during the entire event to be eligible to win. And we do have a winner for this event. And that winner is, drumroll please, if you can hear me, Stephen Klaus from California. Congratulations to you, Stephen. We are going to be in touch ASAP to get you your card, so sit tight. And with that, folks, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Wind River for making this event possible. I want to thank Lexi and Derek for their amazing presentation, for the Q&A fun that we had. It was a real treat for me, and I hope it was for you too, everyone. And that's about all. I am out of here, as are the rest of you. Have a great rest of your day, folks.